Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be around the world today. My name is David Danks. I'm a faculty member here at UC San Diego and the chair of our faculty council at the Eligibility Data Science Institute. And it's my pleasure to welcome you and talk to you about the Rising Stars in Data Science program for 2024-25. It is a real honor to be joined by other folks who are involved with this program. Next slide. And so I wanted to start by just acknowledging some of the folks on this slide you'll be hearing from. Others are here to help answer questions. But the core people for today, Ginny Desa, unfortunately, is not able to join us. But is an associate director of the Eligibility Data Science Institute and HDSI Chancellor's Endowed Chair of Cognitive Science and Data Science here at UCSD. Chris Menzel is the executive director of data sciences at Stanford University. Gal Mishna, you heard her voice before, is an assistant professor of data science here at UCSD and one of the people leading the Rising Stars effort this year as well, with David Uminsky, the executive director of the Data Science Institute and department and research associate in the Department of Computer Science at University of Chicago. That part's missing on there, but make sure to acknowledge that. Molly Long, who has been helping to make sure everything runs smoothly today. So thank you very much for that, Molly. Serina Chang and Amrita Roy Chowdhury, who are both alumni of the Rising Stars program, and you'll hear from them in a little bit. So I'm going to go through and give some information about the program, information about the groups that are running the program this year, what it is that binds us all together in this effort. But please, if you have questions, don't hesitate to drop them into chat. As I already indicated, we've got several people here who can be answering questions in real time in chat. And of course, we'll have time for an interactive Q&A at the end of this if people have additional questions that have not been answered in the chat session. Next slide. So this year, the Rising Stars program is going to be hosted here at UC San Diego by the Eligibility Data Science Institute, which was founded 6 years ago to be a campus-wide hub for data science, for AI, and for interdisciplinary research that centers around the idea of how is it that we can use data to better understand our world and all of the different ways that better understand might come to mean. So that means everything from establishing the foundations of data science, statistical, computational, theoretical foundations, to real-world applications in biomedical and other domains, through to understanding the human and societal impacts of data science and the transformations that we're seeing in our society. We have here at UCSD one of the fastest growing undergraduate programs in data science, with this year incoming nearly 400 undergraduate majors just in 1 year, as well as large and growing graduate programs in both master's and PhD programs in data science. And one of the distinctive things about UCSD, and one of the reasons that we're very honored to get to host this year, is the focus on not just where we are in data science now, but where we're going, including partnerships with the San Diego Supercomputer Center to enable real-world efforts in data science that go far beyond what can be run on a laptop, for example. Now, one of the key parts of what we have here at UCSD is the ENCORE Institute, the Institute for Emerging Core Methods in Data Science. That's an NSF-funded center that is led by UCSD. We collaborate with UCLA, Penn, and University of Texas at Austin to really focus on, as you can see at the bottom of this slide, the 4 core principles and pillars that underlie, we believe, the advances that will be coming in data science, tackling data complexity, understanding how to optimize algorithms and systems, doing responsible machine learning and data science, not simply doing it because we can, but because it's the right thing to do. And then education and engagement to reach out into the world and ensure that the work that we're doing is making a real difference. Next, I want to hand things over to the other David to talk a little bit about the Data Science Institute at University of Chicago. Next slide.
Thank you, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be back here again. This program is a program that was really near and dear to the start of data science at the University of Chicago, and we are very proud to partner with UCSD and Stanford in the expansion of this opportunity, really to allow this to be an opportunity for students across a lot of geographies. The University of Chicago's Data Science Institute started actually only in 2022. And we have been running a program here, building education research and partnership and outreach programs for the last couple of years. Our focus also very similar, which is and I think you'll hear some of this from our colleagues at Stanford, thinking about foundational, hard, and ambitious research programs in the area of data science. For the better part of a decade, data science has been, and now artificial intelligence has really been at the forefront of a lot of change in society and industry. And there's no better time right now to have leading institutions building the foundations of this field and shore up our understanding of these hard and complex problems. And to do that, we really need to foster a diverse and leading research workforce in this. And at the heart of Rising Stars is identifying folks that are pushing the boundaries of data science research and education and partnerships, and bringing them and convening them together for this opportunity that's now the first time going to be hosted at UCSD. We're really excited about that. We, like many of our institutions, are going to be growing and hiring in this field and thinking about ambitious new directions of AI and data science over the coming years. And so we're thrilled to be able to support a program like this. And I know I think I'm handing this to Chris next, if I'm correct. Okay, thank you. All right, good.
Hi, everyone. I'm representing Stanford Data Science. I'm the executive director of this unit on campus that helps to weave together data science that's happening across campus. Data science and artificial intelligence are a big part of all research across all fields at Stanford. Pretty active and strong focus for everyone. And what our unit does, Stanford Data Science, is help to bring those fields together. So it's a very interdisciplinary, multifaceted program. I think of it as kind of an inside out institute where not everyone who's doing data science comes to us, but rather we're kind of interconnecting and cross-pollinating between fields. Our three core focus areas are early career researchers, both PhD students, bringing them together from their programs into a cohort. We hire postdocs every year in our unit that work with faculty across campus. And we're also hiring faculty both with our unit, but in partnerships with departments in all 7 schools at Stanford. We also have research centers to help focus faculty activities across data science and AI is a kind of broad field. So we have a causal inference center, a sustainability data science center, some other centers that are coming online this summer, actually. So this is a great way to kind of focus in a little bit more just beyond the umbrella of data science and AI. And then this fall, we're launching a computational platform for doing data science and artificial intelligence research, both as others have mentioned, the core of data science, new statistical techniques and computation, but also applying those techniques for better understanding of our universe in all fields, all disciplines. This GPU-centric platform will include both hardware, but also, I think importantly, research data scientists to help researchers get on board with this kind of mid-tier resource. So yeah, a lot of exciting things happening at Stanford, and very excited to join UChicago and UCSD in bringing Rising Stars to life. Thanks.
Great, thanks so much, Chris and David. Next slide. Okay, so what is Rising Stars? That's probably a question that is high on many of your minds right now. So Rising Stars is a program that is entering its 5th year, and the goal, as indicated here, really is to celebrate exceptional data scientists that are early in their careers with an intensive workshop that covers both the research side and the professional career side, the side that is quite frankly, in graduate school and even in some postdocs, often neglected. So we're really looking to highlight and fast track those careers as people transition. Both Chris and David mentioned the large amount of hiring that is happening right now in this space. We at HDSI similarly are looking every year to find the best and brightest of the next generation of data scientists. And so one of the goals of Rising Stars very much is to help to not just be an honorific, not just be a signal that somebody is doing exceptional work while a graduate student or postdoc, but rather to actually help accelerate the careers, not just to honor and acknowledge them. We want to make sure to, of course, showcase the work that is happening at the 3 universities that are sponsoring Rising Stars this year, and to provide opportunities for people to receive mentorship, to receive career development guidance, because data science is, of course, a new field in many ways. Even if we broaden it to think of something like AI, it is still the case that career tracks and career trajectories are being figured out in real time. We don't yet have a set of well-worn paths for people to fall into. And so one of the real goals of Rising Stars is to help the next generation lay down those tracks that others can follow in terms of what successful careers in data science look like. Next slide. More practically and pragmatically, the workshop, the 2-day workshop, involves a mix of research talks by people selected as Rising Stars, keynote addresses from major figures in the field, panels on research and career development to help people hear a diverse set of views and perspectives on how to advance research and one's career. Perhaps almost most importantly for many people, one-to-one mentoring meetings with faculty involved in the Rising Stars program from across the 3 institutions. This is really an opportunity to get guidance, feedback, advice from somebody who can take, I think, a more objective view on one's career and on one's research, because this is somebody who's able to really provide the kind of direct guidance that can sometimes be hard to figure out where to find in one's own graduate or postdoc program. Of course, there are going to be many opportunities at the workshop for networking. Networking sometimes gets a bad name. I think it's perhaps best just to think of networking as an opportunity to meet really smart people doing really interesting work. That's really at the heart of it what networking is all about, is making connections with people that are doing outstanding research, novel educational approaches, and are going to be leading in a field so that you can build the collaborations, the opportunities, and the connections that can really help to accelerate one's career. This workshop will be in person. As it said on the previous slide, the dates are November 14th and 15th. It will be in person here at UC San Diego. I will say November in San Diego, the weather is often very nice, so you don't need to worry that you'll be coming into a snowstorm or anything like that. And we're very much looking forward to hosting everyone here. Next slide. More generally, this is a sort of overview of what we think are the real benefits to participating in the Rising Stars program. I already highlighted the mentorship opportunities and the networking opportunities, but it's also a way to start to showcase your research outside of the conferences that I'm sure all of you have already been attending. It's a way to be able to start practicing the research job talks that I'm sure many of you will be giving in the next few years as you go out onto the job market. As you have the opportunity to have an on-campus visit or many visits, you'll be expected to give a research talk, and that's something very different than giving a 15-minute conference talk. And so it's a way to start to get feedback on that kind of professional skill that you need to build as you move forward in your career. It's an opportunity to meet with many other data science researchers who are up and coming, the other Rising Stars. And we can cover the airfare and lodging for participation in the workshop up to $1,000. So the goal is to make this as open as possible to a wide range of junior exceptional researchers. We want to try to remove barriers to opportunity in this way. Next slide. So here's just an overview. You've already heard Gal's name. Here are some other folks who have already agreed to be faculty mentors for the program this year. There will be many more. The complete list, as noted here, will be published on the website in the coming weeks and months. But of course, we're also open to, once the rising stars are selected, helping them find who might be the right mentor for them. So we're also in a position that we can potentially bring in additional mentors if people's interests and research focus is not necessarily fully represented in the list of mentors that we already are assembling as we move forward. Next slide. So I mentioned that this is the 5th year of the program. If we look just at the last 2 years, just as a little bit of data, last year there were 32 rising stars drawn from 15 different institutions. And if we look to the year before, obviously the 2023 rising stars, many of them are finishing up their degrees right now. They may even be finishing up their degrees next year. So if we look at 2022, all of the graduated Rising Stars alumni, 96% of them have fellowships, postdocs, or significant positions. So it's obviously a very high success rate. Correlation does not imply causation, but nonetheless, it's, I think, important to recognize that this is an opportunity to participate in an accelerator for one's career and an opportunity to connect with people who are similarly poised. Next slide. So if we look, here's just some useful, I think, perhaps quotes from previous years from participants in the Rising Stars program that I think highlight, one of the things that I think is sort of shared across many of these is the ways in which it's highlighting an opportunity to understand more about data science as a broad interdisciplinary effort. It's not simply about meeting people who are all doing the same thing, but in part learning much more about all of the different aspects of data science that are occurring by looking quite broadly. Next slide. So we wanted to give a little bit of perspective. So last year, here's just some pictures from last year's Rising Stars, which had 32 people selected as Rising Stars, 25 faculty mentors joined the program, and there were 4 additional panelists who came as well. And so, and this one was, I believe, held in Chicago last year. We wanted to not just show some pictures, but in fact get to hear from several of the people who participated last year. So I now want to turn over the stage to the next 2 speakers, Serina Chang and then Amrita Chowdhury, to tell you a bit about their experience in the Rising Stars 2023 program. So Serina, I'll hand it over to you now.
Thanks so much. Would you mind going to the next slide? Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Serina. I just finished my PhD in computer science at Stanford. I was advised by Yuri Leskovic and Johan Ugander. And I was part of Rising Stars Data Science last year in 2023. Since I participated in Rising Stars, I've gone on the academic job market. And in July 2025, I'll be joining UC Berkeley as an assistant professor with a joint appointment in the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science and Computational Precision Health. I'm also going to be doing a postdoc in the intermediate year, 2024 to 2025, at Microsoft Research, New York City, in the Computational Social Science group. My research is broadly at the intersection of networks and decision-making. I'm very interested in policy domains that are driven by networks. So for example, pandemics, thinking about how we model the spread of, say, COVID-19 over mobility networks and intervene with reopening plans, mitigating disparities, distributing vaccines, and so on. More broadly, my main application areas are in public health and social science and their intersections. I'm also interested in human behavior and recently modeling human behavior with large language models. So yeah, I had a really great time in the program last year. I think several of the elements that have already been mentioned. I remember the mentor meeting was very helpful for me. So I worked with Alex Kale, who's an assistant professor in computer science and data science at UChicago. And we made use of our meeting by actually looking over my materials since I was going on the job market that very year. He looked over my research statement and he helped me tighten the focus of it. I think it's really helpful to have people who don't know your research look over your research statement. Like a lot of the people who had looked over mine before knew my research quite well, were maybe in the same area as me. Alex was in a slightly different area. He was in HCI and data visualization. And so he was able to say, like, you know, when I read this, I'm not, there are parts of it that don't quite make sense to me, and maybe you could tighten this, and maybe you could explain that a little bit more. I think having someone give a fresh pair of eyes on your research statement, someone who's smart but outside of your area and who doesn't know your research quite well, is really helpful. He also attended my lightning talk and sent me detailed comments afterwards. I found the lightning talk very helpful. I basically gave a short version of my job market talk, the intro of it. And so that was a great way to test it out before I really went onto the market. There's also the poster session. That was very nice. I think I learned about various job market opportunities, chatted with people in the program. And I think one thing that is also really valuable out of programs like these is the opportunity to meet peers, and to really make friends with people who are interested in similar things to you. And so finding people who are in data science, I think it connected to people across departments, like not just within computer science, but also information science and maybe biomedical informatics. And so getting to meet like-minded people who are at this intersection of data science and maybe applications to society, and making those friends is really valuable, I think, for a number of reasons. There's, of course, the professional networking, but also the job market is hard. I think it requires emotional support. It requires talking to people who are going through the same thing as you. And it's such a unique experience that I think having people who are actually going through the market at the same time, they can uniquely understand you in a way that others can't. And so I think I made some very good friends out of the program, people that I'm still talking to now, people who are also starting as assistant professors this year or next year. And I think we're gonna continue that connection where we can support each other and navigate the weirdness of academia. So that was really nice. I think in terms of career paths since the program, like I mentioned, I went on the academic job market this past year. I mostly applied for CS positions, also applied for a few information science positions in business schools. So if you have questions about it, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to compare the options. And talk a little bit about what I learned from the sort of multi-market search. One thing that is quite hard is the markets can happen at different times. So for example, I had to balance business school interviews, which were much earlier than say the computer science and the information science timelines. And so trying to figure out how to balance competing markets. I think another general takeaway from the job market is this is a really good time to be in data science. I think, as you can see from what UCSD, UChicago, and Stanford are doing, but also more broadly, my experience is that many institutions, there's a lot of schools that are investing in data science right now, as well as more generally in computing and data for society, which is where my work falls. To give one example, since I'm going to Berkeley, you know, they've been restructuring with the College of Computing, Data Science, and Society. And with that comes a lot of new faculty hires, new departments, new students, new programs. Like this computational precision health program I'm joining is only a few years old, and it's really about bringing data and computation to health. So I think it's a really exciting time. Of course, there's UCSD, UChicago Data Science, Stanford Data Science, and I enjoyed seeing Stanford Data Science blossom and grow over my PhD there. So yeah, I think being part of Rising Stars is really great. I think it connects you to other data scientists. I think it helped me prepare my materials. I think having that extra line on my CV was also quite helpful. And I think schools who are looking for data science candidates are probably looking through the list of Rising Stars to see who they can recruit this year. And so I think it's a really great experience.
Great, thank you so much. Amrita?
Hi, everyone. My name is Amrita, and I was part of the 2021 Rising Stars at UChicago. Currently, I'm a postdoc at UCSD, and I will be joining as an assistant professor at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, starting next month. And in terms of my research, I work in privacy-preserving data analysis using cryptography and differential privacy. I am interested in designing and building systems that give you provable privacy guarantees while still allowing you to use the data in a meaningful way. And I was also in the academic job market this year, and I second everything that Serina said about the usefulness of how useful this workshop has been for me. I think one of the things, again, I know Serina mentioned it as well, and I really want to again highlight it, like but the impact that had on me was the research talk, the lightning talks that I had. It was incredibly useful to have somebody's perspective, somebody who was not aware of my research prior, who works in a very different field, having their objective view, giving me pointed feedback on what are the things that I need to hit on. That was very helpful for me. And especially, like, I think David also mentioned in the beginning that we are mostly used to giving conference talks to people who are literally experts in our area, but our research talks, our job talks are supposed to be much more general in nature. So having these perspective from somebody who is not working in our area was incredibly helpful. And another thing that was really, really helpful for me was these panels. I remember one of the panels, they actually went into, this was like all other faculty panels, they actually went into the details of what happens behind the scene in all these faculty recruitment, which was very, very helpful, because we as grad students, we are not, there's a curtain for this. We are not aware of this, but like knowing what goes behind the scene, that was super helpful and very interesting. And also going back to another thing was the networking part of it. So of course, there is a professional side to networking that you get to know, meet, you get to see the incredible research that is being done by people, your peers. That opens up opportunities for collaboration. But aside just this professional relationship that you made, I would also like to speak from my personal experience. This is a very good way to actually make friendships, like personal, long-term, abiding connections. Like these would be people, folks, these would be around you throughout your career, throughout your entire life. So I have made really good friends through my cohort. Like one of my cohort members, Alex, who will be actually also be my colleague at Michigan. And I've also met amazing people through this workshop, which I have very strong friendship with, not just professional relationship, which I really value. And like, as Serina was mentioning, the value of these friendships is these are literally people who understand what you're going through. They're in the same boat. So it's really helpful to have somebody to talk to, not just about your work problems, but like just in general, like how to wade your way through all this academic career. So it was very, very helpful for me too. So overall, this workshop has been an incredibly amazing experience for me. And it is not just, I mean, obviously it's an amazing thing to have on your CV, but beyond that, you should not just treat it as like a CV point. This it has an impact on your wholesome career development. So this is something that I found incredibly useful.
Thank you so much, Amrita and Serina. Next slide. Here's just a few other of the folks from last year's. So from Serina's cohort, I'm sure she's looking and remembering people from that. And you know, I'm not going to go through them, but just wanted to sort of give some of a flavor of the kinds of work that kind of positions that people are ending up at. As you can see, there's a link there that hopefully somebody can drop into the chat to in case anybody wants to be able to look at some more of the folks who were the alumni from last year's program. Next slide. So what is it about, you know, what needs to happen in order to be a part of the program? Well, so first, I want to just briefly discuss the eligibility requirements. So obviously, since we are aiming for people who are early in their career, all of the applicants need to either be graduate students within 1 year of obtaining their PhD or a current postdoc. So this is not a program for people who already have assistant professor positions. I want to highlight the second point here on this slide, though, which is that the program absolutely welcomes applicants from a very wide variety of fields. Data science sometimes is thought of as statistics plus computer science. But we take in the program and at all three of our institutions a much broader view of the scope of data science, that it is much more about using data to understand our world, which is not just computer science and statistics. It rather requires that we bring together tools from sociology, psychology, mathematics, philosophy. As somebody who is jointly appointed in a philosophy department, I will simply put that forward as well. So we very much welcome people. You shouldn't think, well, I'm not in computer science or statistics, therefore I'm not eligible to apply. Please don't think that way. Please, we encourage you to apply. And in fact, obviously this program is run by these three institutions, but it is obviously not limited to the three institutions. We welcome applications from literally around the world. This isn't restricted to US-based individuals either. The application does involve letters of recommendation, which should be from no more than 2 faculty members or advisors. So it will be something for you to think about in terms of people who are able to help in terms of providing us with more of an understanding of the work that you've done beyond the application itself. I'll just emphasize, note again at the top there, if you have any questions, and I see Gal already put it into chat. If you have questions about eligibility or about anything at all, please don't hesitate to email risingstars@ucsd.edu. We are here to help answer your questions about the program and about what it is that we're trying to achieve with this for you. Next slide. So the specifics of the applications, you're able to look at them. I'm not going to read through this. It's basically approximately what you would expect. Sort of an overview of the research that you're doing, a CV, recommendation letters from 1 to 2 faculty members that in which they provide their support for your application, and as well the next to last bullet point there, that we are very much committed, as all 3 of our institutions, to broadening participation in data science, to ensuring that everyone from every background and every community is able to have a voice in data science, where it is now and where it is going. And so you also will be asked to provide an up to 300-word statement where you talk a little bit about what it is in your background and your values and your experiences that demonstrate your interest in and commitment to helping data science be a more diverse and inclusive community. I want to emphasize this is about how you're contributing to that, right? It isn't solely a matter of demographic characteristics, but it is very much about you being focused on how to help the community as a whole be more diverse and inclusive. And there are many ways to do that, of course. Next slide. So you might be wondering, well, how do we evaluate all of these? Well, it's actually in a certain sense very similar to the evaluation that occurs in things like faculty job applications, which is holistically looking at people's potential for research excellence. Of course, that is in part demonstrated by past research excellence, but we are not just interested in what people have done in the last 3 to 7 years, but looking much more at where it is that people will be going, with the acknowledgement that past is often the best predictor of the future. Academic progress is, of course, important. We do want to make sure that people are moving into their career at the time that they are named as a rising star. Impact is, of course, a little bit difficult to judge and might be hard for some people when you're a graduate student to think, well, how is my work supposed to have impact? I'm just figuring out how it is to do research. But that is one of the things that we as evaluators are going to be looking at in the applications is this work that's going to have a large impact beyond just, or potentially have a large impact beyond just a small community? Is it just a little wiggle on top of something that's been done before, or is it something that's a potentially transformative new approach? And as I noted with the previous slide, commitment to efforts to broaden participation, to have a more diverse and inclusive community, scientific community within data science. Next slide. So the key, one thing that to bear in mind is the application. So applications are due on July 26th by 11:59 p.m. The PST there is Pacific Standard Time, that is to say San Diego time. And so that's 2 weeks from today. So please be aware that application deadline is coming up. The application is certainly is already open, and Gal has posted the link to it in the chat. So you should feel free to start doing your application today if you haven't yet started. We do want to note that letters of recommendation are due on the same day. They are also due 2 weeks from today. Sometimes letters of recommendation are due a little bit later, but they're going to be due on the same day for this program so that we can make the decisions in a timely manner. The decision notifications will come out approximately 1 month later, which will then give people approximately 3 months, 2.5 to 3 months prior to the workshop so that people can plan their travel from there. Next slide. So with that, we'd like to open the floor to questions. These can be questions about the logistics of application eligibility. They can be questions about more details about what will happen in the workshop. They can be questions about, for Serina and Amrita, about their experiences in the program. So please feel free to put any questions that you may have into the Q&A box, the chat in Zoom. And as always, if you could just quickly jump to the next slide, please email us with any questions that you may have, risingstars@ucsd.edu. So there's a question in the Q&A. I'll just read it out so everyone hears it. So somebody writing in, hi from Bhutan. I work in policy and education research. For someone new to data science tools and methodologies, how should they approach the whole thing for someone without computer science or data science training? I'm going to try and answer this in terms of how they should approach the whole thing, meaning the Rising Stars program. I'm not sure I can say how to approach all aspects of policy and education research in just a couple of minutes. But in terms of the Rising Stars program, I think you want to emphasize the ways in which your work connects with and uses data to understand, make a difference, have impact on the world around us. So data science, again, should not be, I think it's shared amongst our 3 institutions that data science as a field ought not be restricted solely to people who do computer science or, in some sense, data science that's starting to be developed as programs, but rather should be an inclusive home, intellectually inclusive, as well as other kinds of inclusive home for different approaches to thinking through how to make sense of our world, how to improve our world, how to influence our world in light of and through data. So I'm sure if you're doing policy research, you're undoubtedly thinking about issues having to do with data, how we can use data to design better policies, how we can develop new educational systems, frameworks, and practices in light of data. And so I think that in the application, you'd want to really emphasize those kinds of connections, emphasize the ways in which your work very much fits into this broad view of data science. So I hope that's helpful. Another question has come in asking about statistics PhD who's collaborated with a clinical psychologist on a data science project. It's not methodological, but applied statistics using existing methods to design better interventions. Does a letter from her help in applying to this workshop? So I think, having an understanding of how your work contributes to real world applications, real world practices, how it might shape and impact, to go back to one of those 4 criteria that will be used for the evaluation. I think an understanding of the impact of your work would be very helpful. And the people reading may not necessarily themselves be able to just quickly figure out, oh, here's the relevance, the real world relevance of a project to design better interventions for mental health. So I think a letter from that faculty, from that individual certainly could be helpful in terms of thinking through and having us understand the impacts of the work that you're doing. So yeah, I think that could certainly make sense. We also have a question posed, which is, how are novel applications of existing data science methodologies, if revolutionary for that field, considered alongside novel methodological development work in terms of selecting rising stars? I think, what I'm about to say is probably going to be unsurprising in light of what I just said for the previous question. But I think the way to think about this is that we do think of data science as not just about building new methods that might never be used by anybody. It is also very much about the real world impact and application of, as you note here, existing data science methods to really make a difference. So I do think that they would be, it certainly is within scope. And you'd want to make sure to be clear about the impacts of the work that you're doing, how it is that you are helping to advance our understanding and ability to act in the world in light of data. I want to jump to the hands that have been raised to let people ask their questions live. So Don Wong, if you want to unmute, I think you should be able to. You're unmuted, but we haven't heard anything, so. Okay. Well, while we figure out what's going on with that, Don, you can either post it as a chat or Q&A, or if we can see if we can get the mic issue figured out here shortly. Jumping back over to the Q&A, there's a question about the research statement as that it should include long-term career goals, referring to career. Does that refer to desired career path or future research goals? I think the short answer to that is both. It's both what is the trajectory that you have for yourself, but it's also what areas do you want to work in? What are the issues that you want to try to address in your research? So I think you'd want to try to emphasize both of those, with the acknowledgement that, of course, this is not any sort of contract or anything like that. We realize that many times people might have in mind that they want to have, say, an industry or alternately an academic career path, and then discover that actually a different path makes more sense for them. And that, of course, holds for research as well. As somebody who started in cognitive science and has ended up in data policy, it certainly has been research can be a long journey. So, yeah.
David, if you don't mind, I just want to reinforce that since we've been running this from inception, we've really expressed that we're trying. This is a sport of the rising stars' career ambitions as they change, as noted, but the outcomes we really mean in support of what is driving you into this field. So as you can see from the outcomes, there's a slight bias in terms of the outcomes being in traditional faculty positions, but there is a diversity of outcomes that we are supporting from this position. And I think that kind of arm's length mentor you gain in your network from this program has been a really, not just as noted by the alumni, a strong way to help you get a job, but also be a safe and arm's length person to ask really hard questions about career decisions that you can get very candid and direct advice from there too as well. So I just wanted to just dovetail what David just said about those career ambitions.
Great. Let's see, there's a question about who we suggest getting recommendation letters from. Obviously the most important thing is to have recommendation letters from people who know your research well and can speak to how participation in this program would be of real benefit to you. That's going to be at the top of the list. So one would assume pre-PhD advisor, postdoc mentor, these sorts of things would be really important to be able to have somebody who could speak to those. I think beyond that, having people who understand data science and understand data science research is going to be crucial as well. So again, this very naturally points towards people who are faculty members, but certainly there's no obligation or requirement that they be faculty members. It could be people who are, in research that you've done an internship with, who know you well and know your work well. So focus on people who really are able to speak to your work and in your career trajectory with a, and hopefully that helps. There was a question that came in over chat asking about statistics regarding the program Alumni. I don't know if we can go back to the slide and just pull it up. I guess this would be slide 10. And we can just have that up there for those who might want to see it.
Yeah, and I can try to grab, there's a question on historic acceptance rate. That is a tough one. The application pool and the accepted number of students is varied year to year. It's very, I'm comfortable in saying it is a competitive position to get, and I don't want to misspeak, because the application pool did grow significantly last year, and it'll either grow again, stay the same, or shrink in this new format. So I'll say, like right now, there was 32 students in last year's cohort, and I believe, Molly, I'm gonna get the strong ballpark of somewhere between 100 and 200 applicants. Okay, I got a nod. But I don't. We really encourage everyone to apply that is interested, and there's a very dedicated review process in this. I want to say that the faculty that sign up to review this take this very seriously. We have 3 institutions putting faculty forward to give a very diverse set of review criterion, and we're gonna do the very best we can in making these tough decisions.
Thanks. There's also a question that was raised about the application materials and the application deadline, since it is summer in the northern hemisphere. And so for many people, they are, I'm sure many of the people on this call currently are not in classes. We realize that it can be a little bit tricky to get a hold of some faculty in the summer. But given that there are 2 weeks here before the deadline, we think that there is still ample time to be able to reach the faculty member. These letters can be quite brief. They don't need to be 10-page letters. In fact, we don't really want people to be having to write 10-page letters. And so we believe that there is sufficient time here to obtain the letters of recommendation. So yes, the deadline is going to be strict in terms of when stuff needs to be submitted. And obviously for at least some people, there will already be the faculty member may already have a letter written. That being said, if there is some sudden crisis that arises, as always, risingstars@ucsd.edu, please reach out to us as soon as you know that something has gone awry. If you have a faculty research advisor who is on a mission, a scientific mission in Antarctica, and will be unreachable for 3 weeks, please reach out to us so that we can work with you to figure out the way to ensure that your application puts your best foot forward. As David said, we very much want to support people through this. We don't want to have people not able to put their best foot forward. So we're happy to have you reach out if there are specific issues that you want to discuss, whether that can happen. That will not, if there are adjustments made, that will not have any impact on your selection opportunities, assuming that everything is worked out. I do want to be clear, I'm not saying that extensions always will happen or anything like that. I'm saying if there is some real crisis, please reach out, risingstars@ucsd.edu, to help because we want to try and be inclusive in this process. Okay. The slides and recording, Molly, do you know, I know there was a transcription being made of this. Are the slides and/or the transcription going to be made available?
Yeah, so this session is being recorded, and that will be posted and shared publicly. And then after this meeting, the slides will go up on our website on the UChicago side, and I believe once a staff member is back from vacation, we'll also go up on the UC San Diego side as well.
All right, well, we're nearing the top of the hour. I'd like to say thank you to everybody for joining us today. We look forward to seeing applications from many of you, hopefully perhaps even all of you. This is, we think, a really important opportunity that is here, and we hope that we'll be able to meet some of you in person in terms of moving forward. I'm not sure if there's the selection criteria are going to be based on the issues that were raised. So if somebody would need to have childcare, that is not going to be relevant in terms of things having to do with the selection criteria. That would be considered entirely separately. If I'm understanding that correctly in terms of a question. Any information such as that would be kept entirely separate from the review and selection process. That would not that would definitely not be incorporated into anything having to do with the selection. So yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend, and we look forward to meeting many of you in a few months.